I am Gakirah Barnes, known on the streets as K.I., a name that carries weight and fear in the underbelly of Chicago's gang life. As I navigate the gritty world that has shaped my existence, my mind races with thoughts of loyalty, survival, and the ever-present threat of violence that shadows my every step. The sun sets over the city, casting long shadows over the dilapidated buildings and cracked pavements that define my neighborhood. This is the world I know, the world that has hardened me into a soldier, a protector, and a target. I am only 17, but the years of living in this concrete jungle have aged me beyond my years. Tonight feels different, though. There's a tension in the air, a sense of foreboding that I can't shake off. I walk through the familiar streets, my eyes scanning every corner, every face. Trust is a luxury I can't afford. My phone buzzes with messages from friends and allies, and I respond with the calculated detachment that has become second nature. Every word, every action, is a move in the deadly game we play. I think about my friends who have fallen, their lives snuffed out in an instant, their dreams buried beneath the weight of gang rivalry. Their faces flash before my eyes, a constant reminder of the stakes. As night falls, I find myself drawn to a quiet spot, away from the chaos. The cold wind bites through my thin jacket, but I barely notice. My mind is elsewhere, replaying moments from my short but turbulent life. I think about my family, the people who love me despite the path I've chosen. I think about my mother, her worried eyes, and the way she tries to shield me from the harsh reality she knows too well. I think about the dreams I once had, dreams that now seem so far out of reach. The streets are eerily quiet tonight, the usual sounds of shouting and laughter replaced by an unsettling silence. I can't shake the feeling that something is coming, something I can't see but can almost sense. My instincts are on high alert, every nerve in my body ready for whatever may come. I tighten my grip on the handle of my weapon, my constant companion in this dangerous world. As I walk, I remember the first time I held a gun, the cold metal against my skin, the rush of power and fear. I remember the first time I pulled the trigger, the deafening sound, and the way it echoed in my mind long after the shot was fired. I was just a kid then, thrust into a world of violence and vengeance. But there was no turning back. This life chose me as much as I chose it. Suddenly, my phone buzzes again, pulling me from my thoughts. It's a message from a close friend, a warning about a rival gang sighting nearby. My heart races, adrenaline flooding my veins. I know I need to stay alert, to stay one step ahead. I start moving towards the spot my friend mentioned, my mind a whirlwind of strategies and contingencies. Every shadow, every movement catches my eye. In this world, hesitation can be fatal. I think about the choices I've made, the lives I've taken, and the blood that's been spilled. I wonder if there's another way, a way out of this cycle of violence. But deep, I know that this is all I know, all I am. The streets have claimed me, molded me into a warrior, a defender of my own. There's a strange sense of pride in that, a twisted honor in being feared and respected. As I turn a corner, I see a group of figures in the distance. My pulse quickens, and I reach for my weapon, ready for whatever comes next. The air is thick with tension, the night pregnant with the possibility of violence. I take a deep breath, steeling myself for the confrontation. In this moment, there's no room for doubt, no room for fear. There's only the fight, the survival. But before I can react, I hear the sharp crack of gunfire. Pain explodes through my body, and I stagger, trying to stay on my feet. The world tilts and blurs, the familiar streets spinning around me. I fall to the ground, the cold pavement hard against my cheek. My vision dims, and the sounds of the city fade into a distant hum. I think about my friends, my family, and the life I could have had. Regret mingles with acceptance as darkness closes in. In my final moments, I am Gakirah Barnes, a product of my environment, a symbol of a life defined by violence. My story ends here, on these streets, but the echoes of my life will linger. The cycle continues, the war rages on, and I become another name in the long list of the fallen. Growing up in the Woodlawn neighborhood, I was exposed to the brutal world of gang violence from a young age. My family struggled to make ends meet. Stories of my exploits spread through the neighborhood, and my name became synonymous with fear and respect. I was a soldier, a protector, and a force to be reckoned with. The older members of the gang saw my potential and began to rely on me for critical missions. Despite the violence and chaos, there was a twisted sense of pride in what I was becoming. I was defending my friends, my family, and my community. The gang wars weren't just about territory, they were about survival and honor. Each act of retribution was a step towards cementing my legacy. But with every victory came greater risks. The police were always watching, and rival gangs were constantly plotting their revenge. My rise to infamy was marked by a series of high-profile confrontations. One of the most significant was the clash with a rival gang that had been terrorizing our neighborhood. They had crossed a line, and it was time to send a message. I led a group of our best fighters into enemy territory, striking swiftly and decisively. The battle was intense, but we emerged victorious. The rival gang was left reeling, and my reputation soared. I was no longer just a soldier, I was a leader. However, the higher I climbed, the more precarious my position became. The streets are unforgiving, and power comes with a price. I was constantly looking over my shoulder, aware that my enemies were lurking in the shadows. The police were closing in, too, determined to bring down the rising star of gang violence. My social media and, while boosting my fame, also made me a target. I was playing a dangerous game, and the stakes were life and death. The beginning of my fall came with a betrayal from within. Trust is a rare commodity in the gang world, and I learned that lesson the hard way. A close ally, someone I considered a brother, turned on me. He fed information to our rivals, setting up an ambush that nearly cost me my life. I managed to escape, but the experience left me scarred and paranoid. The betrayal shook me to my core, and I started to question everything and everyone around me. The pressure from law enforcement also intensified. The Chicago Police Department had formed a task force specifically targeting gang leaders, and I was high on their list. They raided our hideouts, arrested key members, and disrupted our operations. The noose was tightening, and I felt the walls closing in. My once tight grip on the streets began to slip, and I was constantly on the run, moving from one safe house to another. Amidst this chaos, a sense of weariness began to creep in. The endless cycle of violence, the constant threat of death, and the toll it was taking on my mental and physical health started to weigh heavily on me. I thought about the friends I had lost, the blood that had been spilled, and the lives that had been destroyed. I began to wonder if there was another way, a way out of this life that had consumed me. But the streets rarely offer second chances. My downfall came swiftly and brutally. It was a cold night in April, and I was walking through the neighborhood, my senses on high up. I knew something was off, but I couldn't pinpoint what it was. Suddenly, the silence was shattered by the crack of gunfire. Pain exploded through my body, and I fell to the ground, my vision blurring. As I lay there, the sounds of the city fading into the background, I thought about my family, my friends, and the life I had led. I am Gakirah Barnes, a product of my environment, a warrior forged in the crucible of gang warfare. My story is one of loyalty and betrayal, of survival and loss. I rose to fame in a world where death is a constant companion, and I fell as many before me have fallen. My legacy lives on in the memories of those who knew me, a haunting reminder of the cost of living and dying by the code of the streets.